Hi, welcome to a special edition of the NWI.com Political Roundtable. I'm Doug Ross, editorial page editor at the Times Media Company, here with Richard Mourdock, the Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, and it's been an interesting run for you. Why don't we talk about some of the key issues in this race?
Sure.
And the key issue has got to be the federal spending.
Well, I would actually say the key issue right now is the job environment and creating jobs. Certainly federal spending impacts that greatly. But as I've traveled the state of Indiana the last number of months, I mean, it is that sense of when are we going to get the economy going? When are we going to see jobs created? And frankly, when I hear from so many grandparents who are worried about their grandkids and parents worried about those about to come out of college, it's an ongoing concern that we need to be dealing with firsthand, and frankly, we're not at the federal level.
So how do you do it?
Well, I think you have to realize, first of all, there's no one single silver bullet. But I think we have to change a lot of tax policy in this country to help incentivize those who would be making the investments to create the jobs. We have to change the regulatory environment and roll that back so we can get people working without having to step over a federal bureaucrat every other moment. And last but not least, we do have to change the federal government in the sense that the government has to do what we've done so effectively in Indiana, which is to say live within its means. The former head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said not long ago, the biggest threat to the United States of America is our own debt. Just a couple days ago, we hit $16 trillion, and that number is growing at far too rapid a rate. We have to change that.
Okay. Yesterday, I think I saw a statistic that said something like nearly half of Americans expected that they'd be making the same amount of money next year as they are this year, and of course, we know what prices continue to do. So, you know, how do you deal with those concerns?
Well, it's rather ironic, isn't it? You know, 4 years ago we saw a presidential campaign that was supposedly based on hope for better things, and by your own definition, there are more and more people who are expecting less. They are expecting less of themselves, and they see less of a future for their children and their grandchildren. Again, how do we deal with it? We have to start by having government put out a consistent set of rules. Right now, if you're a small business owner, you don't know what your taxes will be come January 1st. You don't know what your medical costs are going to be. You don't know what the regulatory environment is going to be. And people won't invest in a market where there's a lot of uncertainty. The federal government continues to make that uncertainty worse, and we have to change that.
Okay. One of the uncertainties that individuals have is energy prices. Now, you're a geologist, so you know, why don't you talk about what to do about that?
Sure. I am a geologist, and we like to say geologists are sort of like Marines. Even though I haven't been practicing many years, you're never an ex-Marine, you're never an ex-geologist. But it's true. I had spent 31 years in the energy business. And I'm really optimistic, Doug, because I believe we're on the verge of an American renaissance in the energy business. This fracking that we've heard about so often lately is leading to much lower costs of natural gas in the United States, and there are strong indications that in just a few years we're going to have a lot larger percentage of our crude oil again produced in the United States. That will result not only in lower prices, but think about it, it's a game changer. Because we're not going to be sending $1 trillion a year overseas anymore. It's going to change the way we have our foreign policy. And it's going to be a good thing because it's going to make us more globally competitive. The only thing that's really hindering it right now is the fact that, again, from the federal government side, they're standing in the way of issuing permits, they're blocking development on federal lands, they're stopping development even on private land with things like the Keystone Pipeline and the infrastructure we need. We need to get the federal government out of the way.
You mentioned fracking. We should probably ask you to give like a easy to understand little golden book version
sure, the quick
of how it works.
Yeah. First of all, fracking is not something new. The industry's been doing it for almost 50 years. Just, if you will, picture drilling down, say, 10,000 feet. There's a hole basically 12 inches across, and most of that's filled with the steel pipe. You then inject concrete. It fills up along that pipe, so it's very, very well sealed. Then you inject tremendous pressure through the pipe, and it literally fractures, hence frack, the rock. What's changed in the last couple of years is now we've found ways to drill down 10,000 feet and then drill horizontally in 30 different directions, another 10,000 feet, and then we frack it. That's leading to creation of artificial reservoirs for natural gas and liquid petroleum that can be 4 and 5 miles across. This is exciting stuff, and it's only happening here in the United States, and it's happening because of American ingenuity, and it's something that we should reward.
Okay. Energy independence, of course, has a profound impact on our nation's foreign policy. Could you speak to that?
And I don't know that we'll ever be fully energy independent, but we can at least be North America dependent. And I've said it many times, as quirky as our Canadian friends might be, I'd much rather be buying oil from them than buying it from people who put explosive vests on children. It would change our foreign policy because we're not going to be funding those who far too often hate us and have been responsible for much of the terrorism in the world. It would be a major game changer.
Okay. Congressman Donnelly, Joe Donnelly, your Democratic opponents criticized you on what you did with the Chrysler situation. He was in Congress at the time watching this. Why don't you speak to that issue?
There's a clear difference. And the Chrysler case was a couple years ago now. It was in the late spring of 2009. And it's really a very simple thing to explain. Indiana's retired teachers, our retired state police officers, for whom I work as their trustee, had invested in the secured debt of Chrysler. That simply means in the event of a bankruptcy, they're first in line to get their money back. That has been bankruptcy law in America since 1800 until Chrysler. The government changed the rules arbitrarily. We sued. Somebody should take the stand for retirees, and I did. The oath of office I keep on my office wall says, as state treasurer, I will support the laws of Indiana and support and uphold the Constitution of the United States. The laws that were put in place, the Constitution clearly gave our retired teachers and retired police officers rights that were being taken away from them. And so I went to bat for them and sued the Obama administration and sued Chrysler so their property could be protected. Mr. Donnelly and others thought, no, it was fine for the government to pick and choose who won and lost. I don't think that's the federal government's role, not to pick winners and losers.
Okay, fair enough. You've got a libertarian opponent too, Andy Horning. Now, can you speak to what makes you different from each of your two opponents?
Well, I honestly don't know enough about Mr. Horning. I don't know that I've met him more than a time or two over the last 10 years, but I can certainly divide myself from Mr. Donnelly. This race, and President Obama in his acceptance speech said it perfectly, this race is about a choice of two paths. And I'm going to be telling Hoosiers it's about the choice between the Indiana way and the Washington way. In the Indiana way, we make this state business friendly. As a result, we're one of the top 5 business friendly states in the world, in America. On the other hand, at the same time, the Washington Obama-Donnelly way has caused our corporate tax rates to go up, has put a regulatory environment in place that's driving American businesses overseas. The Indiana way, as I've done as state treasurer, is to make sure this state lives within its means. The Obama-Donnelly way is to keep borrowing more, taxing more, and spending more. The Indiana way results in benefits such as seeing our credit rating as a state go up. The Obama-Donnelly way has caused us to see that our debt increase more and more, and our credit rating to go down. There's a clear choice here, and I think the Indiana way will win out.
Okay. That's probably all the time we have. Thank you. This has been a special edition of the NWI.com Political Roundtable with Richard Mourdock. I'm Doug Ross. Thank you for viewing.